Welcome to the town meeting for 26-27. Want to introduce our town clerk, Susan Carson. She'll be recording the minutes and taking care of some of the written ballots that we have to take care of. Just a single housekeeping item. We had June 1st is the earliest the town meeting can be held, which means there's not a lot of time to review and prepare the warrant and the annual reports. We do have a spelling mistake. I will be giving away another Yeti cup if anybody can find it before we get to that article. I have ambulance subscription plans. They start July 1st. There's applications in the back, as well as email sign-up sheets. If you'd like to receive updates from the town, we ask that you fill out those email sheets. I now ask you to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a special guest here who will lead us in the pledge. My special guest here.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if Max, you want to come up and talk about your special project you have going on, I'll give you the floor.
So, hi, my name is Max Roberts, and I'm a Life Scout from Troop 44, and I am requesting permission to build a pavilion at the stream behind Bob's store at the Sedge. So, the pavilion is going to be a 10 by 10 for the posts, but the roof should be a 12 by 12. I'm also planning on building a wheelchair accessible picnic table, because I already presented this and somebody brought that up. So I'll get my funding from friends and family. We have a bottle drive that we do within the troop. I can reach out to Hammond Lumber, Lowe's, and Viking Lumber, because I know they've helped Eagle Scouts in the past. And it was mentioned at the town selectmen meeting that the town has funding within that. So I'm going to be doing this because me and my friends like to hang out there, fish and stuff, and I've talked to people and they say they like to hang out there too. So I think it'd be really good for the community to have that back. Because the old one blew over in windstorm, so we'll see if I can rebuild that.
He'll be available after the meeting to answer any questions you have, see his plans, and discuss if you'd like to help him out. At this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Carl for the interviews.
Again, it's always good to be here. It's been 21st, but really my 19th time that I was able to lead it with a prayer. And I think it's important to remember that we may not all have the same faith, but we are all here as a community, as people that care. So it's just a good time that however you worship, just take a time of quietness for a moment and praise our thanks. So let us be in the spirit of prayer. Gracious and almighty and holy God, as we gathered here on this evening on, once again, a town meeting, we pause to give you thanks. We thank you, O Lord, for the community which many call home, for the families and the neighborhoods, for the schools and the businesses, the churches, the farms, and oh Lord, the things you created, the forests and the rivers. All these things make Orrington a special place, whether you just work or live here. We thank you for the generations who have gone before us here, for those who have worked hard on a vision that has kept this town so meaningful and a place that many enjoy. Tonight we offer special thanks for those who have chose to serve the people of Orrington. In a time when public service can be challenging and often misunderstood, we recognize the dedication, the sacrifice, and the countless hours that elected officials, committee members, town employees, volunteers, and civic leaders give each and every year. Their work is not always easy and often it goes unnoticed. We are grateful for those that are willing to put themselves out there, step forward and serve their neighbors. Father, we grant wisdom to those who lead. We ask for patience to those who serve, and understanding to all of us as citizens as we come together to speak thoughtfully and remember that we may not all agree, but we share a common desire for a community to be well-rounded and spoken for. Bless those, O Lord, that are at this meeting. Bless the discussions that will take place. Guide their language, guide their decisions toward what is good, fair, and beneficial for all. Strengthen the bonds that have united us in my 21 years. Remind us of the great accomplishments that have come because people have worked together. Lord, you know what we need, so may we just relax and be thankful for everything we have, especially as we ask you to watch over our first responders, our teachers, our senior citizens, our children, and anyone who may call this place home. May Orrington continue to be a place where neighbors care for each other, where kindness is practiced, and where hope for the future remains strong. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of gathering in this free place, as we thank you for all things, because all things are made possible through you. Amen. Again, thank you for allowing me to come and just start this annual meeting each year.
One more special guest we have to chat about her endeavor she has been working on for well over a year. I invite Pat Claus up to discuss the project she has.
Good evening, everybody. I'm an Orrington native, and I love this town as much as anyone else possibly could. And I've always loved history. And why I wasn't more involved in the bicentennial back in 1976, I don't know. But I do remember one thing that came out of that was the erection of a wooden sign in a place that was very, very important. And that wooden sign fell down. And this story was almost completely forgotten. This amazing woman, Azubah Freeman Ryder, is one of the most extraordinary women that you'll ever hear of. And she lived right here in Orrington, Maine. Her parents, Timothy and Zeruiah Nickerson Ryder of Eastham, Massachusetts, settled in what is now South Orrington, Maine, right along the water in 1788 as part of the huge out-migration of people from Massachusetts up to Maine that happened at that time. They lived in a large white farmhouse, which was later known as the Allen Farm. That's what it was always known to everybody my age, right on Route 15, which is still there, still extant, beautiful old home. She was living in a time which was very fraught politically because the British had continued to harass American shipping for many years after the American Revolution. We won the revolution, but you wouldn't even have known it on the seas because Americans were always being harassed on the seas. They were always being threatened with more invasions and so on like that. The War of 1812 is sometimes referred to as the Second American Revolution for that reason, because we had to fight all over again for our sovereignty. By the time the war broke out in 1812, Azuba had been married to a prominent local sea captain, Samuel Ryder, who was an amazing person in his own right, for 5 years, and they had 3 little children together. She had also served as a school teacher in town, which is very rare for a married woman to have done at that time. She was a schoolmistress at the number 5 school, which is also known as the Pine Top School, which doesn't exist as a school anymore, but is a private home right at the junction of the Betts Road and the Sweats Pond Road. So it's a beautiful old home, and that plays a part in our story. One day in 1814, September 3rd, she was living with her parents, and she was just about to give birth to her 4th child. She happened to look up from her children who were playing outside that house, the Allen farm house. She looked down and she saw a contingent of British soldiers coming up what is now Route 15, the River Road, which is called the Castine Route at the time. So you can imagine how incredibly alarming that was. Her husband was away at war, so she must have been very, very aware of the tensions of the time. Despite being heavily pregnant, she realized she had to try to alert the local militia captain about these troops, as they were obviously going toward Bangor. There was just nobody else around. The men were away at war, or they were in the fields. There was no one else. So she had to be the one to go and alert this militia captain, Barzillai Ridge, who lived out by Sweats Pond Road, on the Sweats Pond Road now. She took up her children, her 3 children, and she started running through the forest that is, even now, behind the Allen farm, all the way to what is now the junction of the Sweats Pond Road and the Betts Road, to the home of Barzillai Ridge, right next to that Pine Top School, and you can see that in pink there. I've marked it on the map where she went. And you can imagine the virgin forest of the time. I mean, it was almost impassable. She had made her little path that she would go through every day as she went to school. That's all there was just this little path. It was infested with bears. She said there were bears everywhere. It was very frightening. She got there. She was able to at least alert him to the presence of these troops as they made their way toward Bangor. So they were able to at least put up a fight. That very night, she delivered her 4th child in the home of Barzillai Ridge, the captain. So she's just an exemplary human being on so many different levels. Her courageous exploits were never forgotten by the town, which commemorated her race through the woods in 1888 and the Orrington Centennial Celebration. At that point, she had reached the incredible age of 104 years and several months. And she lived just a few more months, so she was just an incredible human being, and she was recognized during her lifetime. There's a beautiful engraving of her face that was made when she was 104 years old, which is just mind-blowing. And that was in the Bangor Historian paper just this last week. So now an exciting historical project is in the works in this town where we're going to try to commemorate her life by erecting a sign in the place where that sign was in 1976, made by an Eagle Scout, and I can't remember his name, I wish I knew who it was. But anyway, the sign had fallen down because it was wood. This one is not going to be wood, it's going to be made of a really nice fiberglass type of sign that we have in North Orrington and South Orrington, so it'll be here forever, basically. Hopefully it's going to have a recreation of that map on it, as well as her face, maybe a picture of her and her children going through the woods that made by A&I, which is actually really nice, that kind of thing. And hopefully we'll get some funding to do this through the TIF, or tax incremental funds, that exist for all the country, the counties in Maine. And on top of that, I'm hoping someday to have a granite monument in her honor to be erected in South Orrington, possibly right off Route 15. And that's a little bit more of a pie in the sky thing. It's going to cost about $30,000. I'm just letting people know about it because we're in the beginning stages of that. And it would be done through Freshwater, Stone, and Brickwork in Orleans, who would all be local. And I think this woman really deserves that. So I just wanted to let people know, we're in the beginning stages, but don't be surprised if you see a great big sign being erected in her memory on Route 15, hopefully this year. So, thank you very much.
And I'd recommend anyone to chat with Pat about this project. She's a wealth of knowledge. It's been enjoyable working with her. One more guest, and then we'll get to business. Representative Campbell.
Hi, I'm Dick Campbell. I live on the top of this little bump in the road called Baker Hill in North Orrington. I've been there since I was 4 years old and don't expect to leave. I've gone from one side of the house to the other, now I own. I'm honored to represent you and remain House Representative. It's an interesting place these days. We're here to talk about the budget. We all look at our electric bills and watch them rise. And from my perspective, having served there for close to 30 years, in and out, it's time for a change. If you look at your electric bill, yes, it's high, but the law says it's going to get higher. By 2032, we're supposed to be 80% renewable energy production. By 2040, it's supposed to be 100%. It's the law. Here we're talking about budgets, school budgets. I talked to superintendents both here and across the state. We took a look at our tax bills, and the reason the school budget's higher, as I listened to our superintendents, it's because of the Department of Education. Superintendents are telling me that if the Department of Education just leave us alone and let us focus on basic education, we'd be fine. But the reason your budgets go up is because of the mandates that come down from Augusta. It's one of those things that it just creeps up on us, but it's time for a change in Augusta. So it's one of those things that we can do it, but we can't stay home and not vote. The problem with staying home and not voting is we get what's coming at us. So I appreciate the honor. I'm in my 10th term, in and out, and I've got 2 left. So I'd be honored if you would be willing to send me back. But it's really important to hear from the people, the citizens. In our committees, we have all the experts, all the lobbyists, but we really listen to the people. If you ever get a chance to go to a legislative committee, you're the people that we want to hear from. So with that, thank you very much.
We'll now move on to nominations for the moderator that will oversee this town meeting. I'd ask the board, do you have anyone you'd like to nominate for moderator? Jake Lane. Is there any nominations from the floor? For now, I believe 10 people have been handed white. So we'll take a written ballot for Mr. Landry. Let's give Susan a hand in.
Hey, we'll do it together. We can make it admin custom. Admin custom. The Three Stooges, though. I know people. Me and Cam. Me and Cam should do this. Me and Cam should do this.
Congratulations, Jake.
Yeah, okay.
Susan could swear you in.
Then you killed it. Oh, yeah, I was there.
Any guesses on the spelling mistake? Not what I'm looking for. Again, not the one I'm looking for. Oh, I promise, we'll find it. Yeah.
I do. Come back. Don't leave. You haven't voted yet.
All right, good evening. So we did find on the floor up here someone's ballot and proof of voter registration. Is anyone aware that they dropped theirs? Maybe you want to check your pockets. I'll keep it up here in case anybody does figure out that it was theirs. I'm Jake. I'm glad to be here moderating your town meeting this evening. This is supposed to be fairly informal, but we do need a little bit of structure to make sure we're all kind of following along with the same rules of how this is going to operate. Our town charter and the laws of Maine do not mandate any specific rules of order that we follow along. So if no one has any issue, I'll be following the Maine Moderator's Manual, which is published by the state. It's just a rough guide to rules of order and how things are going to operate. Any questions that we may have about motions, how to rule on any sorts of those things, I will decide according to the instructions in this pamphlet. Does anybody have any objections to that? Great. Let's go ahead and get started with article number 2, to see if the town will authorize the select board on behalf of the town to appoint any and all necessary town officers required by law and not chosen at said meeting.
So,
Ms. Susan, do we need to record who moves in seconds? All right, perfect. So I have a motion and a second to authorize the select board on behalf of the town to appoint any and all necessary town officers required by law and not chosen at this meeting. Is there anyone that would like to debate this issue? Hearing none, let's go for a vote. Do I hear any objections? Hearing none, it is accepted. Moving on to Article 3, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board to procure a temporary loan or loans within the 2026-27 fiscal year in anticipation of taxes for the purpose of paying the obligations of the town, such loan to be paid during the said taxable year. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second? It has been moved and seconded to accept article number 3. Is there any debate on the question? Hearing none, we can vote. Are there any objections to the acceptance of article 3? It is accepted. Yes, sir.
Is this acceptable? Normally we'll vote all in favor, all opposed.
All in favor, all opposed is only required for a majority, but as long as no one is objecting, that is effectively a majority.
All right, I just wanted
Does that work? Sweet. Okay. Just trying to be a little more efficient. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board on behalf of the town to sell and dispose of any real estate acquired by the town for non-payment of taxes thereon, on such terms as they deem advisable, and to execute quick claim deeds for same. If sale is to anyone other than the former owner, the select board shall follow the special sale provisions required by 36 MRS section 943-C. Do I hear a motion to accept? It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the question? Hearing none, we will proceed to a vote. Is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 4? It is accepted. Article 5, to see if the town will authorize the select board to sell or dispose of obsolete equipment and or real property in a manner deemed by the select board to be in the best interest of the town. Do I hear a motion?
so moved.
Do I hear a second? Has been moved and seconded. Is there any debate on Article 5? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 5? Great, it is accepted. Article 6, to see if the town will fix a date or dates when taxes shall be due and payable, and to see if the town will fix a rate of interest to be charged on taxes unpaid after said dates. The select board recommends that the taxes be due and payable in 2 equal installments, which shall be due and payable upon completion of the tax commitment. The first installment shall become delinquent after September 15th, 2026, and the second installment shall become delinquent after March 15th, 2027. Interest at the rate of 7% per annum will be charged on delinquent taxes. Abated taxes will have a fixed rate of interest at 3% per annum. So just to a point of clarification, the dates and rates that were read aloud were just recommendations. So when someone moves to accept this article, Are you moving and seconding the acceptance of the select board's recommendations? Yes, okay, I missed who moved and who seconded. So it has been moved and seconded to accept the select board's recommendations that the first installment of taxes shall become delinquent after September 15th, 2026, and the second installment shall become delinquent after March 15th, 2027, at an interest rate of 7% per annum on delinquent taxes, and abated taxes will have a fixed interest rate of 3% per annum. Is there any discussion on this article? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 6? It is accepted. Article 7, to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to accept certain cemetery trust funds, the interest from which shall be used for the perpetual care and maintenance of the cemetery grounds. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 7? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 7? Hearing none, it is accepted. Moving on to Article 8, to see if the town will vote to increase the property tax limit established for Orrington by state law in the event that the municipal budget approved under the following articles will result in the municipal budget greater than the property tax levy limit. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes, sir.
In the version that I have, I don't get read what you read. It says, last phrase is, will result in the municipal budget rate. That doesn't make sense.
I will reread what I have. I think we have the same language. Article 8, to see if the town will vote to increase the property tax limit established for Orrington by state law in the event that the municipal budget approved under the following articles will result in the municipal budgeted greater than the property tax levy limit. I think the issue is budgeted versus budget.
Does that make sense? All right, but it doesn't make sense.
Would you like to clarify?
I would concur, and this is probably the fellow that you were on earlier. So by default, I get it out. All opposed?
Does that answer your question, sir?
I think the second budget should be budgeted.
But
Yeah.
it's not the voting on it.
Yeah.
Are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 8? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to ratify the actions of the select board regarding the following anticipated overdrafts in these departments. Department 420, Solid Waste, and Department 450, the Orrington Recreational Committee. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 9? Yes, sir.
I was wondering if the select board had a discussion about the range of what that could amount to. Because everything else has dollar amount estimated, but this one doesn't. So it's essentially an open, the previous says there's an increase in actually coverage. This one talks about possible increases that will be approved, but it doesn't. It's sort of an open door. Did the select board discuss the range of possible increases? The way it's worded, it could be more.
This isn't talking about the budget going forward, this is talking about the budget that we're in right now.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
So, the budget you're operating under right now, and the budget for 227.
The budget we're operating right now is with these two departments overdrafted, like what we voted on at last year. And so we're asking to authorize those overdrafts. So we're not approving any money.
No, I understand, but it seems to be giving the select board the authority to spend whatever amount is needed. Is that the case?
In a very true sense of the word, yes, it is.
Well, and I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
My question is, really, has there been a discussion about what that, how onerous should that be? And is the select board comfortable with this?
I think the select board is comfortable with it. The rec department overspent their statutory limit. It was offset by increase in the revenues. So that effect, it's still technically overdraft. It doesn't have an effect on the bottom line.
Yes, sir.
So in response to that, I said the same thing, you're asking without a number. So why don't we see, this is June 1st, budget in 30 days. Why is there not a rate? Like the same question that he's asking, why is there not a number? You're asking us to vote on an open budget number without a number. I mean, is rec over by 1,000, is solid waste over by 100,000? We would like to know where you're at. That's what I would like to know.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking to vote on. Let them just do whatever they want. I don't like that.
I don't have the number. You're all involved to overhead.
As a point of procedural just process, any articles that the town is uncomfortable accepting, you can pass over. However, those can't be acted upon until the next town meeting. So that will either be the town meeting of next year, or if a special town meeting is called, then further business can be adopted. So if you see fit to not accept Article 9 as written and without further clarification or information, that is acceptable, but the town would potentially not be able to address that budgetary issue. Yes, sir.
Didn't you just say the local grant was covered by increase in funding?
The town manager did speak to the budgetary shortfall for the recreation committee, but he shared no information about the solid waste overdraft. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and proceed to a vote. Since there has been some discussion, if you are in support of accepting Article 9, which would ratify the actions of the Select Board regarding the following anticipated overdrafts in the Solid Waste and Recreation Committee, please raise your hand. All right, go ahead and lower those. All opposed, please raise your hand. All right, those supportive of the measure do have a majority, so Article 9 is accepted. Article 10, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for administrative salaries and expenses. This time, the Select Board recommends $1,322,769. I'm gonna have to read a lot of numbers, and I'm really bad about that, so give me a little break if you need to. Do I hear a motion to accept Article 10 as recommended? So moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 10? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote. Are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 10 as recommended by the Select Board? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 11, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for compensation of town officials. The Select Board recommends $23,950. Do I hear a motion? Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded to accept Article 11 to appropriate compensation for town officials at $23,950. Is there any debate on the issue? Hearing none, let's go ahead and vote. Are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 11 as written? Hearing none, it is accepted. As we move on to Article 12, I just want to call out a correction. In line item number 4, the school committee recommends the number we have listed in our written document is 128,52. That is just a clerical error.
I found it.
The error is, or the correct amount recommended by the school committee is $128,525. So I'll go ahead and read out Article 12 in its totality. Or do we vote on this line by line? Line by line. All right, so then we'll go line by line, and I will call out exactly what we're discussing, so this one's a little bit dense. Article 12 is the Orrington School Budget Appropriation for the 2026-2027 year, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the following line items. Line number 1, regular instruction, the school committee recommends $4,958,115. Do I hear a motion to accept the school committee's recommendation? Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item 1, the budget for regular instruction? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item number 1, regular instruction? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 2 is special education. The school committee recommends $1,563,105. Do I hear a motion to accept the school committee's recommendation for special education? Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on special education, line item number 2? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item number 2? Was that an objection? Hearing none or seeing none, it is accepted. Line item number 3 is career and technical education. Shall the regional vocational budget as approved by the cooperative board for the period July 1, 2026 through June 30, 2027 be approved in the amount of $6,156,935. Orrington's share of the operational budget is $0. To see if the town will approve the total operating budget of $245,815 for adult education at the United Technology Center and appropriate $2,510 as Orrington's share, with authorization to expend any additional, incidental, or miscellaneous receipts in the interest and for the well-being of the adult education program. The select board and the school committee both recommend a allocation of $2,510. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item number 4, that one that we needed to correct, is for other instruction, including extracurricular instruction. The school committee actually recommends $128,525. Do I hear a motion to accept the recommendation? Say again.
Do we have to amend it?
So you would amend a motion that is open for consideration in front of the body. At this point in time, this is just a recommendation. I'm entertaining a motion to accept the correct recommendation of $128,000. Say again.
It's quicker than amended.
Yes,
Okay.
and cleaner.
I so move.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item number 4? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 4 as recommended? At $128,525. Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 5, student and staff support. The school committee recommends $430,511. It's been moved. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item 5, student and staff support? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 5 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 6, system administration. The school committee recommends $325,584. It's been moved. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item 6 for system administration? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 6? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 7 is for school administration. The school committee recommends $370,972. It's been moved to accept the school committee's recommendation. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item 7? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item number 7? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 8 is transportation and buses. The school committee recommends $528,585. Has been moved to accept the school committee's recommendation. Do I hear a second? Thank you so much. Is there any discussion on line item 8? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 8? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 9 is facilities maintenance. The school committee recommends $826,669. It's been moved to accept the school committee's recommendation. Do I hear a second? Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion of line item 9, facilities maintenance? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 9 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 10, debt service and other commitments. The school committee recommends $0. Been moved. Do I hear a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 10 at $0? Hearing none, it is accepted. Line item 11, all other expenditures including school lunch. The school committee recommends $20,000. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on line item 11? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of line item 11? Hearing none, it is accepted. So the line item totals of line 1 through 11, is that the correct number? The $9,157,000? Is that the correct number with the addition to line item 4? Okay, perfect. So the line items for 1 through 11 is a total of $9,157,576. For Article 13, we have to at least say it. For Article 13, to see what sum the town will appropriate for the foundation allocation for school purposes, and to see what sum the town will raise as the local share for the foundation allocation. The school committee recommends $2,917,524. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 13? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 13? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 14 must be voted on by paper ballots due to the article exceeding the state's essential programs and services funding model. So you have received your little paper slip. This is what you will use that slip for. Article 14, to see what sum the town will raise and appropriate in additional local funds, we recommend $2,111,814, which exceeds the state's essential programs funding model by $2,091,814. The school committee recommends, for the following reasons, EPS allocation from the state per secondary student is $9,226. The cost for Brewer High School is approximately $12,863.64, and the cost for John Baptist High School is approximately $15,958.53. Secondary school tuition paying systems has to budget additional students limited EPS reimbursement for co-curricular expenses, EPS at 10%. Do I hear a motion to accept Article 14 as recommended? It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 14 as recommended? Hearing none, seeing none, we will proceed to vote, which will be by paper ballot. Please go ahead and fill out those paper ballots, and we have clerks that will come around to collect those tickets. Because we are voting by paper ballots, we will actually have to count up those ballots. So if anyone needs a quick restroom break, now is probably a good time to run out there.
Nobody dresses up gender. In a meeting. think so.
Yes, sir.
What is the total percent?
That's gonna be a good one.
School budget overall?
I believe that is a question for the school committee, potentially someone can answer.
It's 125.
Also, just one more check. This is when you would have used your paper ballot. Did anybody realize they didn't have theirs? This one was just MIA? Okay. All right, the result of voting for Article 14, 6 votes no, 61 votes yes. So the article does pass by a majority vote. Moving on to Article 15. The following article is a summary article. The amount recommended should be the gross budget of the school system. This article does not provide money unless the other articles were approved. Other articles being those line items that we just worked our way through. So Article 15, to see what sum the town will authorize the school committee to extend for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2026 and ending July 30, 2027, from the town's contribution into the total cost of funding public education from kindergarten to grade 12 as described in the Essential Programs and Services Funding Act. Non-state funded school construction projects, additional local funds for school purposes under the Maine Revised Statute, Title 20A, Section 15690, unexpected balances, tuition receipts, state subsidy, and other receipts for support of schools. That's the summary of line items 1 through 11. The school committee does recommend $9,154,576. Do I hear a second? Is there any discussion on Article 15? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 15? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 16, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for public works and solid waste. The select board recommends $912,053. Do I hear a second? Then moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 16? Yes, ma'am.
Does this amount take into account the fact that?
Could you speak a little louder, please?
Oh, yeah. Does this figure take into account the overage from last year?
No, we increased the budget to take into account.
That is the question. Thank you.
We're hoping to fuel the eventually go down.
Live in hope, die in despair is what my grandma said.
Is there any further debate on Article 16? Hearing none, is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 16 as recommended at $912,053? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 17, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for civic programs, with the select board recommending $61,129. Do I hear a motion to accept the board's recommendation? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any debate on Article 17 for civic programs? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 17 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 18, to see what sum of money the town will appropriate for public safety, with the select board recommending $1,544,315. Do I hear a second? It has been moved and seconded to accept the select board's recommendation for Article 18, public safety. Is there any discussion on the issue? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 18 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 19, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for the library. The select board recommends $119,517. Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded to accept the select board's recommendation for Article 19, the library. Is there any discussion on this issue? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 19? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 20, to see what sum of money the town will appropriate for capital projects. The select board recommends $1,075,000. It has been moved to accept the select board's recommendation for capital projects, Article 20. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 20, capital projects? Hearing none, is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 20 as recommended, $1,075,000? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 21, to see if the town of Orrington will vote to accept and distribute funds as provided by the Maine state legislature, such as state revenue sharing, roadblock grant, tree growth reimbursement, veterans exemption reimbursement, and snowmobile registration when made available. The select board does recommend approval. It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the acceptance of Article 1? Hearing none, is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 21 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 22, to see how the town will vote to fund the appropriations approved in these warranty articles. The select board recommends using revenues appropriated from non-property tax revenues, which includes an amount up to $750,000 from fund balance and the remainder to be raised from property taxes. The select board recommends approval. It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 2? Just a quick note of procedure. We can change the amount of money coming from different pots, but we couldn't potentially amend this to change what pot of money that would be coming from. That's just forbidden by statute. So are there any discussions on Article 22? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 22 as recommended? Hearing none, it is approved. Article 23, to see if the town will vote to authorize the select board or the town manager acting in concurrence with said select board to apply for and/or accept and extend on behalf of the town money from federal, state, and other governmental units or private sources which may be received from time to time and in the form of grants or from other or for any other purpose during the period July 1, 2026 to June 30, 2027. Board recommends approval. It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 23? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 23 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 24, to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to accept repayment of taxes not yet committed and to pay no interest thereon. Select Board recommends approval. It's been moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 24? Hearing none, are there any objections to accepting Article 24 to authorize the treasurer to accept repayment of taxes not yet committed and to pay no interest thereon? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 25, shall the town of Orrington authorize the Orrington School Committee to expend such other sums as may be received from federal or state grants or programs or other sources during the fiscal year for school purposes, provided that such grants and other sources do not require the expenditure of other funds not previously appropriated. The board recommends approval. Here, it has been moved and seconded to adopt Article 25 as recommended. Is there any discussion on Article 25? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 25 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 26, shall the town vote to appropriate the money received annually from the registration of snowmobiles to the Orrington Trail Riders Snowmobile Club for the purpose of maintaining their snowmobile trails to be open to the public, open to the use of the public at all times, and to authorize the municipal officers to enter into an agreement with the club under such terms and conditions as the municipal officers may deem advisable for that purpose.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do I hear a second? Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 26?
Why is there no addition?
Say again.
Why is there no addition?
That I do not know. Mr. Town Manager.
It was something we discussed at one of the board meetings in the budget committee. And so that this was a new article that we put in. So the whole committee, they supported, what we had come up with. If we changed the local agencies around, in what we committed in the prior article. That, the Orrington agencies, 1,500 non-Orrington, that goes to 1,000. But this is money that comes in from the state that we decided to turn over to the snowmobile club. Instead of keeping it in the town's office. And so the select board said this was one way to do it without opening up a can of worms with every other, local agency. In town. We didn't have to do it every single agency. Any state money that some other local agency gave us, we would consider turning over to them. To see how the snowmobile club was very confused and we see state money. We decided to turn this over to them. I think the select would support the idea.
Is there any further debate on Article 26? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 26 as recommended? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 27, shall the town vote to pay any tax abatement and applicable interest granted during this fiscal year using the amount raised and or appropriated to the overlay account, with the board recommending approval? Do I hear a second? It has been moved and seconded to accept Article 27. Is there any discussion on the issue? Hearing none, is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 27? Hearing none, it is accepted. Article 28, shall the town will vote pursuant to 23 MRSA section 2953 that orders of the municipal officers with respect to the closing of roads to winter maintenance shall be a final determination. The cited statute requires winter road closure orders to be approved by October 1st, either by the voters or by the municipal officers, if so authorized. This article authorizes the municipal officers to make the final determination and avoids the necessity of a special town meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept Article 28. Is there any discussion on the issue? Hearing none, are there any objections to the acceptance of Article 28? Hearing none, it is accepted. The next two articles that we have, 29 and 30, are articles which actually accept legislation. Because of that, the vote is only able to accept or deny the legislation. We're not able to make any modifications to that legislation that has been recommended. Article 29, shall an ordinance entitled the Orrington Land Use Ordinance, Article 6, Site Plan and Subdivision Review, be amended as presented for public hearing by the Planning Board on April 15th, 2026. A copy of the amended ordinance is available from the town clerk. The Select Board and Planning Board recommends approval. Do I hear a motion to accept Article 29?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 29?
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Section 208, item number 5, it speaks about a special town meeting. And there's been, a lot of changes, I understand, probably it's because that's the way municipality is supposed to now operate. But I just got a question on number 5, in that section, on page 7, it says the moderator, the special town meeting shall be selected in the same manner as the moderator of an annual town meeting, and the rules of procedure for the annual town meeting shall also apply to special town meetings.
Sir? You're one ahead.
I'm sorry?
You're one more
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
Yes.
I am ahead?
Yes.
We're focused.
We encourage you to read more and you're doing great.
We're focused on the land use ordinance as proposed on April 15th.
I'm sorry.
All
I
right.
apologize.
Is there any discussion on Article 29? Hearing none, are there any issues or any objections to the acceptance of Article 29, accepting the land use ordinance? Hearing none, it is accepted. Now moving on to Article 30. Shall the town amend the town charter as presented for public hearing by the Charter Committee and Select Board on May 21st, 2026? A copy of the amended charter is available from the town clerk and online at the town's website. Do I hear a motion to accept Article 30? Do I hear a second? It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on Article 30?
I won't read the whole thing again.
Yes.
The very end, it says, the town meeting shall also apply to special town meeting with the exception of a quorum requirement. Why is there no quorum requirement on a special town meeting?
There has never been, there was never a form of prior in the current. I don't think so, probably that's not well attended discussion about it. There's a lot of pain and effort that goes into handling what we are doing the budget meeting to get people to come to this town meeting. Special town meeting is, not as well attended.
The only reason why I raised that question is I don't have any worries about as we have our current town, but in 10 years, it seems to me somebody could put together something and squeak in something with 7 votes that maybe we don't want.
Not disagreeing. They always had, opportunities for special town. It takes, the special circumstances to have a special town meeting. Yeah. And so,
Okay. I mean, I'm not gonna vote it down, I just wanted to know if it was something that was new or not. If it's been that way, it's not quite so concerning.
it's been that way, that was not a change from the current to the proposed. And the quorum from the current to the proposed has been many times.
Yes, sir.
I will address that a little bit. I was on that committee that worked on it.
Do you mind speaking up a little bit?
There's no change from the quorum, and we talked about it. But I also want to point out one of the things that we did address, we asked if this passes, it's been 17 years since the charter review. And we asked that the selectmen on a yearly basis look it over, so if something like that needs to be changed, please pass. So we did talk about it, but we just chose at this point to do it well. That helps.
Is there any further discussion on Article 30? Hearing none, is there any objection to the acceptance of Article 30 to adopt the amended town charter? Hearing none, it is adopted. And with that, that conducts our business to proceed through this evening. I was asked to share with you the results of the local elections, which happened throughout the day today. For select board for a term of 3 years, our two winners are Alan Elkin and Alan Snell. Do we announce the totals? Do we announce the vote totals? Okay. Alan Elkin received 162 votes. Alan Snell received 141 votes. And Mr. Robert Furrow received 74 votes. 54 votes were blank and 9 were write-ins. For a select board for a term of 1 year, Mark, that name, Avplanel, totally new name for me, was elected with 174 votes. 35 votes were, or I'm sorry, 35 votes were blank and 9 were write-in. And for the school committee, a term of 3 years, Aaron Wall received 181 votes, and Brittany Case received 173 votes, both being elected. 79 ballots were blank and 3 were write-ins. Thank you so much for your time and attention and cooperation this evening. I appreciate it. I now turn it back over to the town manager.
I want to thank Jay for a great job. I also want to thank Cal for coming. Max for the project he's going. A couple of these guys are studying civic and governmental studies, so hopefully this kind of fills in some blank for some of you. We'll be working together in the near future, so I look forward to that. School board, been quiet over here. Anything else? Yeah. I'll entertain motion to adjourn. Second? Second. Non-negotiable. Thanks for coming.